So a common question will be, say, how does somebody's working hour preference change when the wage changes? So here I've shown you some initial condition where the person initially chooses the red dot here. That's based on this budget constraint. And the question might say, okay, what if we have budget constraint 2, where their wage goes up, so now they can afford more points. Where are they going to choose? And you should remember that because of the income effect and the substitution effect, it's actually ambiguous what's going to happen. Their hours worked could go up or it could go down. But once you have the shape of the indifference curve, it's not actually ambiguous anymore. There's a specific correct answer. The reason we say it's ambiguous is because depending on the shape of the indifference curve, it could go either way. And so a common mistake that people make is still sort of thinking that it's ambiguous, or thinking that they can draw these indifference curves in a way that'll make it look like either working hours goes up or down. And so one example of that is if I choose my new point, I could maybe draw it over here and say my new working hour choice is this. Or I could have drawn it up here and said my new working hours choice is this. So if we allow the labor supply graph to be analyzed in that way, if I allow it to just sort of be shifted to wherever I want, then we're not really even using the model at this point. We're just sort of drawing lines where we want them to be to make it have either a lot of work or a small amount of work. The thing that's wrong with this is that we don't think that just because the budget constraint moved, that doesn't actually change the preferences of an individual. And so it might seem like I kept the shape kind of the same here, but in fact I've changed the shape quite a bit. And to see why, just remember that the shape is a description of how the person trades off between leisure and income. So if we think of a point like, if we think of a point like this point versus a point like this point, so I'll make these both pink. According to the initial indifference curve, these two pink points are equally good, which means that getting 2 hours less leisure and very, very little extra income makes the person equally well off. If you think about this same trade-off for going from 10 hours to 8 hours for the indifference curve I've drawn up here, which I'll put in green, maybe a little darker so it's easier to see. This indifference curve has a very, very different shape in this region, right? So it says that in order to go from 10 hours to 8 hours of leisure, we need to be compensated a huge amount of wages or a huge amount of income in order to make us equally well off. So these are two different types of people. In order to be able to actually use the labor supply model to analyze working choices, it's really important that we keep not just the shape, but sort of the position as well constant. And so if we shift this out carefully, we'll get that there's really a specific point that's going to be the new optimum. It's that point right there. So I can't have this other budget constraint. I'm shifting the indifference curve in a very specific way. This says that the person will work about the same number of hours when the wage goes up. That means the income effect and the substitution effect are equally important here. They're canceling each other out.